Good evening, this is Rwanda Television. We hope you had a productive day and welcome to the news in English. We'll begin with the headlines. The President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, told the participants of the Africa Climate Summit that there is need for collaboration among African countries to curb the effects of climate change, which continues to hinder the continent. Now, economic analysts note that the foreign domestic investment, the development of the service sector, and the tourism are among the major factors that contributed to the economic growth in the East African community. I am Olive Nete. It's always a pleasure to have your company. Now to the news in details. The President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, told the participants of the Africa Climate Summit that there is need for collaboration among African countries to curb the effects of the climate change, which continues to hinder the continent. Prince Manzi with the report.
It is a summit held in Nairobi, Kenya, and participated in by various African heads of state, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, the Chairperson of the African Union, Musa Faki Mahamat, climate change activists, and other dignitaries. President Paul Kagame demonstrated that after the COP27, various activities, including environmental conservation, were invested in. President Kagame emphasized that Africa continues to endure the burden of climate change effects, yet play little to no part in it.
This is unfair, but in the long run, playing the blame game is not the answer. A more pragmatic approach is for Africa to be a key player in the search for global climate solutions. Africa stands united and should remain so in this and in its position.
The UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, reiterated that countries with big economies are to comply with their pledges, financially contributing in the curbing of the climate change effects. The Secretary General emphasized that Africa is a great partner in this environmental conservation journey.
Africa is home to 60% of the world's best solar resources, but only 2% of global investments in renewable energy over the last 2 decades. Now is the time to bring together African countries with developed countries, financial institutions, and technological companies to create a true African renewable energy alliance. With adequate access to financial resources at reasonable cost and technological support, renewables could dramatically boost economies, grow new industries, create jobs, and drive development, including by reaching the over 600 million Africans living without access to power.
The President of Comoros, Azali Assoumani, heading the African Union, tackled on the need of enough investment in environmental conservation, use of clean energy, and sustainable agriculture that contribute to food sufficiency. To William Ruto, the Kenyan President, Africa annually loses a lot of funds for the sake of battling climate change, and this affects its development. President Ruto also emphasized that equity is critical in natural wealth distribution.
This is the continent that is the lungs of the world. We have the largest natural carbon sequestration infrastructure. In fact, we dare say, if there was a company for collecting garbage globally, and I'm talking about carbon garbage, Africa would have the largest shares because we have the largest lungs. The only problem is that those who produce the garbage refuse to pay their bills and profile the company as broke, when it is actually them who have refused to pay the bills.
In 20 countries majorly affected by the climate change effects, 17 are on the African continent. The intensity of these effects affect Africa, and yet the continent only contributes 4% as it releases 1.45 billion tons of intoxicated gases. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Prince, for the details. Now, before we continue this edition of the news, let us inform you that President Paul Kagame had engaging discussions with Sigrid Kaag, outgoing Minister of Finance and Deputy Prime Minister of the Netherlands, on the opportunities for bilateral collaboration in furthering projects that addresses climate change and contribute to socio-economic transformation. They also discussed ongoing developments on the continent and the need for a paradigm shift towards mutually beneficial Europe-Africa partnerships. President Paul Kagame also met with President Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana. They discussed security challenges facing the continent and reiterated their commitment to strengthening bilateral ties in several areas, including vaccine manufacturing. President Kagame also met with President Julius Maada of Sierra Leone. They exchanged on areas of partnerships in various sectors, including in land restoration and conservation, and the heads of state agreed to establish working groups to further collaborate and knowledge exchange. Moving ahead, economic analysts note that the foreign domestic investment, the development of the service sector, and tourism are among the major factors that contributed to the economic growth in the East African community, which reached to 5.1% this year. Adam Squizera files the report.
It has been 3 years, many of the member countries of the East African community struggling with the COVID-19 pandemic, which many of them sought various solutions to recover their economies. As Rwanda at that time launched an economic recovery fund with more than $350 million, which helped it to recover its economy, especially in various sectors including business. In the annual report of the African Development Bank, AFDB demonstrated that the East African community has had more economic growth than other parts of the continent after the COVID-19 pandemic, although this growth may be affected by climate change and political crisis if the member countries manages poorly, as Ejid Karuranga, an economic expert, explains.
The probability of keeping that same level of growth is based on two key principles. One is good governance. As long as countries will be governed properly, I don't see anybody who could come and disturb what they have achieved. But if there is any, then probably we could stall in the growth or put again barriers of trade where we had suppressed them in the recent past. So in economics, we believe in one of the models we use to show that a group of countries can move to a very high and sustainable development is the flying geese theory. But another condition is member states have to be also stable, because if you look at the geese, how they fly, Kenya will be flying the lead. So he'll be dragging all the geese to follow, or the countries will be following Kenya. If Kenya is okay, then the rest of the countries have to be okay as well. Because if you bring turmoils in Burundi, you bring disorder in Uganda, then we are no longer part of the community. So as long as we'll be all in very stable environment in terms of governance, chances are high that we will be again experiencing a very high growth rate compared to the rest of Africa.
Growth in East Africa was projected to strengthen from an estimated 4.4% in 2022 to 5.1% in 2023 and 5.8% in 2024, according to AFDB. Economic analysts points out that the foreign domestic investment and the development of the service sector and tourism are noted as the major factors that contributed to the growth of the East African community's economy.
One is the service sector. When you look at key measures which are taken, like not only Rwanda but also the whole region, like East Africa, like let me mention an example of Visit Rwanda. Many reports are showing how Visit Rwanda is contributing on increased revenues to Rwanda through the tourism. This is not happening only in Rwanda. When you look on the visitors in Kenya, Tanzania, because of their parks, how they are valorizing their parks, this is one of the main factors. The way the governments of our countries have invested in this sector of the services contributed much in raising the economies. The second factor is the development, the openness of the countries.
If you look at the financial sector, for example, it's lagging behind the rest of the world. We are not comparable to Hong Kong, or Singapore, or any other financial center. We are not even comparable to Mauritius. So meaning that there are room for growth. There are a lot of opportunities which are untapped and which need to be addressed for us to move forward from an economic point of view. So the service sector is one of the engine for further development, for sustainability of our growth.
This is while trade between East African Community member countries has significantly increased by 12% to $10.9 billion. These figures shows that trade between the countries has been growing since 2019, where it was worth of $7.1 billion, while in 2021 it has reached to $9.5 billion. Adams Kwizera, RTV News.
Thank you, Adams, for the details. Now, Stefan Löfven, the former Prime Minister of Sweden and current chair of the governing board of the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, has told soldiers, police and civilian personnel in the training at the Rwanda Peace Academy that international cooperation is required to deal with present-day global security threats. Serge Honore with the details.
Heading the high-level advisory board on effective multilateralism, the former Prime Minister spoke to the trainees on the importance of nations working together to face global security threats.
Yeah, first I want to thank the organizers for this opportunity. We are deeply impressed by the Rwanda Peace Academy and its work, and I think it's very important for Rwanda. I think it's important for the African continent, but I also believe it's important for the world so we can learn. So it has been a privilege to be here. My lecture was about the multilateral cooperation, that we need to improve it a lot. We see conflicts, wars around the world. We have a climate issue, a real challenge with the climate change. We have health issues, so we need to cooperate better. So I try to describe what I have been working with together with at least the former president of Liberia, Madam President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, in a high-level advisory board on proposals to make the multilateral system more effective.
The need to recognize the latest forms of security threats, namely in the form of cyber attacks, was also emphasized.
Yeah, I myself is from the armed forces many years, and we have another enemy. We have the other side, those they are potentially fighting against. So there's a lot of systems that are getting digitalized, flight control, you have reconnaissance, finding the enemy, you have artillery support, all these things, they're all digital. So if the enemy can attack you, your system will not work. So you need to make the system safe. And that is one of the things that we've been talking around about inside, that this apply very much to the military sector and the police.
The trainees at the academy commended the lectures that they were given.
We are fortunate to have had these experts with their experience come to talk to us, drawing on what they went through. It certainly increases our capacity to perform as required in the event that we are deployed to international peacekeeping missions abroad to countries that have been affected by war.
What basically we have gained is how the cyber operates and how it can benefit, especially when it comes to looking for criminals using technology.
In addition to lecturing the 25 trainees, the former Swedish Prime Minister was at the Rwanda Peace Academy to assess how it can better collaborate with the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute.
Moving ahead, the Global Fund that was set up to fight AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria has called on African countries to follow the example that has been set by Rwanda when it comes to the proper utilization of funds allocated to fighting the three diseases. Serge Honore continues.
AIDSPAN, the independent observer of the Global Fund, organized the third phase of the second regional roundtable, with discussions focusing on enhancing financial, programmatic, procurement and supply chain audits of donor-funded health grants.
Thank you to the people of Rwanda. Thank you to His Excellency, the President of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, for hosting us during a time like this, whereby there's a lot of questioning and pandemonium on the role of supreme audit institutions. Now, this supreme audit institution of Rwanda has been one that has been acting and performing in a way that is exemplary. We are here not for the first time. This is for the third time under this program. And that is a clear testimony that the supreme audit institution of Rwanda has been delivering, and it is indeed an institution that is exemplary to follow through. We are here because there are results, nothing else.
The participants of the roundtable discussions are emphasizing that certain things need to be done for the challenges that exist to be overcome when it comes to effectively fighting AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria.
I think when it comes to the challenges, I call it, some of the base systems of the countries need to be there, need to have strong foundations. So you need to have, for example, good assurance systems in the country, good national assurance systems that are already there, existing, running. So you need to have auditor generals, for example, doing really solid financial audits. And then you can build on top of that the capacity to do programmatic audits, to do performance audits, to do compliance audits and other things. And so some of these things still need some work to build these foundations. And Rwanda, I think, is one of the good examples where these foundations are already existing, and now we are seeing already really programmatic audits, performance audits happening in this country. So it's really exciting. Yeah.
In Rwanda, sound leadership has enabled for the proper utilization of resources, with the goal being to minimize shortcomings that would otherwise negatively affect the country's people.
I would say there's no magic that we are doing. Simply, we are just following the line that was given by our leadership, by the head of state. He's always telling us, do better, try to achieve more. But also, the choice you have made as Rwanda, where everyone should be accountable, should explain what he's doing. So that choice that we have made, we are always implementing it, but also we want to achieve more. As we are implementing this program, we want to see results. So as the Office of Auditor General, when we are assessing numbers, when we are auditing funds that are injecting in the health sector, we want to see these funds are well written in the books of account, but also they are making impact to the lives of people. This is what we are doing. We audit funds, but also we check where money was spent to see whether the money is making impact. We have been conducting a number of audits in the health sector, especially projects funded by Global Fund and the Gavi, but our audit conclusion was that the funds were well written, but also funds were well utilized. That can be seen on the ground. So these people came here to see what we did, but I wouldn't say that there is. We do what we are supposed to do, but we want to do more. We shall continue investing more effort to achieve more.
The regional discussions are featuring participants from the DRC, Malawi, Mozambique, Nigeria, Tanzania, Uganda, and Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Serge, for the details. Now, the 10th East Africa Internet Governance Forum 2023 has taken place in Kigali, focusing on the theme, the Internet we want, that participants have pointed out is possible through the proper collaboration, with the goal being accelerated regional development.
One of the most important venues to really come together and discuss the future of the Internet. This year's theme is the Internet we want, and I think it's very important to have the East African community, and this is the private, challenge each other, kind of what do we need to do to have an Internet of tomorrow that includes everybody. And we have a lot of problems, as we know, in East Africa. It is connectivity, it is also kind of establishing the right legal frameworks, it is about pushing the economy to build on digital, and I think this is what we try to do here at East African.
The participants also emphasized the need for prevailing challenges to be overcome so that set objectives can be attained. This regional conference comes ahead of a larger continental one that is slated for this month of September. And on behalf of the entire news production team that helped us prepare this for you, thank you for staying with us. Stay safe.